This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Hey there, it's Brian Sebastian, movie reviews and more, live on Worldwide TV Network, I-2247 out of Franklin, Tennessee, Talk4TV Media, Radio and Podcasting, and K4HD Radio and Podcasting, and obviously streaming live around the world. We got to say hi to everybody. Yes, there's a dog barking behind me. I don't know why. I'm not at my house, but these things happen when we have technology. So I've been looking forward to this show. Obviously, we got Cyberchuck 2.0 over there. He's back. He's one of our first male co-hosts with Roberto Delanese, the Method from Brazil. And then obviously Nonstop is around. So it's good to see her. We'll talk about her later. Hi. She's got some stuff to say. But first, let's go into Wade. Wade, tell us who you are, where you're coming from, and all the things that you're doing. And I'll fill in the blanks as we go.
All right, Wade Major. I'm a longtime Los Angeles film critic. Presently do film reviews for KPCC Film Week at scpr.org. And I'm also a partner in the CineGods website with my buddy Tim Cogshell, also here today, cinegods.com. And we are the host of the longstanding DigiGods podcast at digigods.com, which is also associated with CineGods.
And with that also, we come back to Tim. So Tim, I've been looking forward to seeing you, my man, for a long time. Tim, tell us where you're coming from and why you're relevant to today's world when it comes to movies.
Hey, brother, how you doing there, Brian? Everything that Wade says, you could just put right next to me. So everything he said, just swap my name in, and I do all of that standing next to Wade. Have been for 31 years and going. So that's what I do, and I do it all while being black.
Exactly.
I'm like Ginger Rogers with Fred Astaire, while dancing, but I do it all while moving back. But that's what makes me a little bit relevant. How y'all doing?
Hey, we're doing good. Hey, Tim, let's rewind back to the Oscars. It was good to see that photo with you on the Oscars. Talk about what the Oscars was like this year, being kind of virtually and a little bit inside. What was that like for you?
Yeah, that was an interesting thing. That was actually my first in studio, out of the house, out of my studio space in the real world event that I went to with Claudia Puig, our Los Angeles Film Critics Association president, and who also helped me with that. Get a hold of that project at the Disney lot. On the Disney lot, we were actually in the ABC 7 studios for that. I had to get out the tux and everything, the much tighter tux. And everything to go do that. The event itself. So, we were in this sort of like isolated bubble sort of situation that required a couple of rehearsals, and then being live in the studio with Roshamba and George Pinocchio and all of the other, wonderful regular hosts there at KABC. Of course, the Oscars were scattered about in a few different places, mostly downtown at Union Station. I did get a chance to tour the Union Station sort of Oscar presentation back when they were putting that all together. I found it kind of interesting. The Oscar show itself, disappointing by this measure. If you measure it by the Emmy presentation for the same year, which was also a mostly virtual presentation, which I found quite compelling and quite engaging and very well done, mostly from the Staples Center, but also satellite locations, so sort of empty Staples Center. The Oscars were not particularly successful by that measure. If you're talking about the content winners, losers, that kind of thing, that's a whole different conversation. I'll let some other folks sort of weigh in on that. Nomadland versus this other thing. There were several films in this year's Academy Awards that were not nominated that I felt ought to have been nominated. There were people who were not nominated in given categories. Regina King, who I felt ought to have been nominated in other categories. So we can sort of move the things around a little bit with that. But the actual stuff and getting back out into the world, the Oscars, it was okay, but not spectacular. I think the Emmys did a better job.
Talk about this aspect of things, because Terry and Chuck been knowing for a while. I wasn't going to go back to the movies until the end of the summer, the earliest. Well, I broke that rule. I went back the end of May because there was nothing really to do when I got back to Los Angeles. So I went into the theaters, experienced what it was like. I wanted to see how clean it was. It was really interesting. Have you guys got a chance to go back to the theaters or are you just still looking at links?
Wait.
I've been back a few times for screenings. I've been to a few all media screenings. I've been commercial theaters and private screens. People are coming back, but I think in Los Angeles County, part of the problem is that there's the mask mandate was off and then it was on again. Last year, restaurants were closed and then they were open and then they were closed again. So, the numbers come down, numbers go up. So everybody, I think, is still sitting on their hands and waiting for that moment when they go, okay, now everything's okay again. Because nobody wants to get back to normal and sitting at home and not life. Most people I know feel like this is what I've been doing for a year and a half and don't tease me. So I think that the fact that we're not getting a straight answer and the goalposts are moving every few weeks, that's keeping people away. But a substantial number of people are going out, so it is back again. Movies are hitting theaters; they're making money nationally, even if certain counties like Los Angeles are kind of crimping it a little bit. But we're not 100%, and I don't think we're going to be at 100% until we really see some guidance coming from the CDC. When the CDC says, okay, now we can start getting back to normal. Now we feel like the variants are under control. Now we feel like enough people are vaccinated. Then I think you'll see all the states and all the counties and all the local health authorities kind of follow that lead. And then I think audiences will follow that.
So Chuck and Terry, have you guys had a chance to go to the theaters? Or are you going to go? Because I just went this past weekend, and I'm going to give my experience in a minute.
Chuck,
I've
actually been.
No, go Terry, go for it.
Oh no, you go first. You started. You go.
Yeah, so I've been a few when they first opened up and they allowed the masks. I've been there, and then I went when they had no masks, and when they had no masks, there was obviously more people. And recently went last week, and for me, I normally go to the movies when there's less people, just because I like to enjoy a movie when there's just less people there. So for me, it's been good, just having people, because I can focus more. Having PTSD and stuff, it's hard for me having a lot of people around. So when I go and there's many people, I'm more comfortable and can focus on the movies. I really love going to the movies, and whenever I get the opportunity, I still go.
Terry?
Well, I love movies. I love especially comedies and horrors, which we talked about that in the last show. But I have not been back to the theater. But I think the main reason that I haven't is because I like to watch movies in my pajamas at home. And be comfortable on my couch. But I did that before the pandemic. Like, I would order stuff on pay-per-view that was out in the theater and watch it at home, just because I like to watch movies on my couch with my glass of wine. And I don't know, that's just the way I like to watch movies. So that didn't really change that much for me.
So Tim and Wade, I went. Tim and Wade.
Well, interesting. I was just listening to Terri. Terri seems to have just accelerated the thing that she was moving into anyway, as a film watcher, sort of pre-pandemic. And of course, we do have to keep reminding ourselves that the exhibition business, the movie exhibition business, the way we all watch movies, streaming, and all of that, that was changing anyway.
Before,
right?
Yeah.
Before the pandemic, all of that was in metamorphosis, and what was going to happen wasn't assured. Were theaters simply going to become a sort of a place where tent poles go, and this sort of ordinary films, dramas, and whatnot? Were they going to go the way of streaming? The limitless theater system was in trouble before the pandemic. All kinds of things were happening with the Cinerama Dome here in Los Angeles and other theaters before the pandemic. So I think that we have to keep that in mind, no matter what happens with the pandemic. And then, of course, you have the pandemic. I have only been to private screening rooms with limited attendance and mandatory mask wearing. Twice, literally, since the beginning of the pandemic. I have not been back in a major theater. I did not attend the movie for that brief moment when one could go to the movie without a mask. So, and what has that meant in terms of my engaging film, the films I've seen? To be honest, not all that much. I've seen a whole lot of big movies. I've seen them right here in my big old room with my big old TV and my fantastic sound and all that kind of stuff, and they were perfectly enjoyable experiences. The dog agrees. I know that some of them. I know that some of them probably would have been a little bit more engaging. And Black Widow is one. I saw Black Widow at home. But I enjoyed Black Widow sitting right here at home. I'm not sure being in a theater would have made me enjoy it all that much more.
So here's the other thing about this. Oh, go ahead, Terri. Go ahead.
No, I didn't even think about what he was saying about how it's changing. Like for live, I like to see live music. That's different. Like for sporting events, I want to be there. I don't want to watch it on TV or streaming. So with movies though, it's just. But it has been going that way because I know I'm not the only person that likes to do it that way. With Netflix and Hulu and all these other things that came out. So there's a lot of more options. And especially when you're traveling on a plane, if you've got Netflix, you can pull up your iPad and you can watch a movie that they might not have. There's just more opportunities, if that makes any sense, with streaming. And I think it gives performers a lot more opportunities because it's at more places for talent to make movies. Does that make any sense? With streaming.
Wait, I know you want to say something, but before you say something, let me tell you my experience. So I've been watching things firsthand because I'm not getting a lot of what you guys are getting anymore. I don't know why. I don't care, but I can talk freely because one, I don't care. But here's the thing: I went to the Sherman Oaks Galleria. As you know, Regal Theaters owns it now. They took over June 23rd. And so I went to go see Respect. I paid $11.50 because paying is up to somewhat people. A lot of people don't have money to pay to see a movie or to get a concession. The concession for my big huge popcorn was $9. And I went back and forth. Should I use my last pack at Limley in North Hollywood? Did I want to drive all the way back over to North Hollywood to see Respect for free or pay $6.25? I went back and forth in my head. It might sound crazy, but this is how people are doing it. There was only 6 people in that theater, and I loved the movie. I wanted to see it on the big screen. The day before that, I went to the Century City Westfield Mall. I went over to see Black Widow because I missed it at NoHo. It wasn't there. So what I saw, I had to pay $14. And I was like, man. And there was only 5 people in the theater. And as the lights went up, they all had their mask on. And I was like, that looks so strange. But they had their mask on as the credits were rolling up, and I thought that was fascinating. So I've been going firsthand and see how everything's doing. And yes, Limley's is struggling. Regal's just took, AMC just took over the Grove. It'll be interesting to see how they do that. They're going to spend $10 million at the Regal, at the Sherman Oaks Galleria, and that's going to be interesting as they work on it slowly but surely the next 4 months. That was my last experience the last 2 weeks.
Let me weigh in here for a second. So first of all, I miss standing in line for 2 hours to get into a crowded theater, sitting in a theater that seats 800 to 1,000 people, sitting next to a sweaty stranger in his bucket or her bucket of popcorn, and watching as the lights go down and the curtains open and a logo comes up, and hearing 1,000 people scream at the same time, and then at the end of that experience, walking out completely satisfied and knowing that 1,000 strangers who otherwise would never be caught dead in a room together all came together in this incredibly horrible, divided, angry, bitter world and put everything aside and said, you know what? We just had a great time together. I think there's something magical about that. I don't think the experience at home will ever equal that. I think that is an experience that we all miss on a certain level. And I think streaming is great. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for it. But the movie business has to pivot. You know, originally before there was television, we had these things called serials. You know, and kids would go and watch the Flash Gordon or the Buck Rogers or the, you know, whatever adventure Western serials every Saturday. And then television came and kind of killed that because, well, we can do that on television. Those are series. And the movie business has to pivot. And then television gets colored. Well, the movies have to get widescreen. Well, the movies haven't pivoted because of streaming. And as I've often said on our podcast, you know, as living rooms became more like theaters, the exhibitors made their theaters more like living rooms. So the difference now, people are like, I got a better sound system at home. I got a better screen at home. I don't have sticky floors at home. And so the movie business has to up its game. You got to give us a reason to leave the house. You got to give me product that's really good. And by the way, Respect is an amazing film. Jennifer Hudson could win another Oscar for that. She's incredible.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, what a great movie. It brought me to tears.
I was crying too.
Oh, it's so good. And so you got to make better movies. You got to make bigger movies. You got to make the big screen experience worth it, because people can get a hell of an experience at home. So you need to make stuff that is going to make that.
Wade, we lost you for a little bit. What was the last little bit you said?
I said the movie business has made these pivots anytime that television or other technologies have caught up, you know, VHS rental, DVD. I mean, when new technologies come in and steal away the audience or make it harder for people to justify going out, you got to make a technological pivot. You got to make a quality pivot. You got to give people a reason to leave the house. And they did that in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and in the 90s. They haven't done it now with streaming. They need to. They need to find a way to make a different product that gives people a reason to get out of the house.
Well, Tim,
and it has to be something. There has to be something more than just another incarnation of a Marvel or a DC movie. The sort of things we've come to expect to a certain extent do bring us out of the house. You know, the end games and all that kind of stuff. It has to be something more than that too. Technology-wise, I don't know. We've been messing around with 3D 6 different ways from Sunday for the last however long. Now even 3D televisions didn't seem to be the thing.
They're dead.
Yeah. So will it be found in higher and higher and higher resolutions of definition that can happen in theaters that might not be able to happen on your television? I don't know. I know that it won't necessarily be movie stars. I know that it won't be movie stars. It used to just be movie stars. You know, there was a time when we went to the movies just to see a given movie star. You know, I'm going to see the new Tom Cruise movie. I'm going to see the new whoever. You know, that doesn't really happen anymore. You know, it doesn't make any difference. So what will it be? What will it be that will make it worth the time, the money, the expense, the full and complete expense of dragging myself and my girlfriend, my wife, my kids, whoever it is, out to a movie theater to do that whole thing? Now, I do agree with Wade. It's possible. And maybe it'll simply have to do with bringing back the spectacular nature of going to the movies. You know, back in the day, folks got dressed up to go to the movies.
That's right.
You wore a suit and tie the way you did when you went to Broadway, and it was a whole thing. That was all fine and dandy, but movies became more populous than that, and I think that's good too, because that means that all kinds of people could go to the movies, not just people with, well, you know, high society sort of aspirations. And then, of course, there was a moment when people went to the movies in their car with everybody all packed in and big. This Brian, Wade, you guys remember this? We were
yeah.
That's how you went to the movies. You got 25 people in the car. Go to the movies, man. So which of these will it be? I don't know, but there's an opportunity here. Someone clever is going to figure it out. Someone more clever than me, I imagine.
Well, let me ask you this. All right, so Terry, what would it take for you to get up and go out your house to go and see a movie in the theater? What would it take?
To get out, well, right now it'd be just nice to get out of the house because we've been locked in the house too much, and to connect with friends and just enjoy a movie together again. I mean, I like going to the movies. I'm just saying that I just kind of get spoiled on watching it at home. That's just me. Not everybody's like me. I mean, I'm kind of a homebody at sometimes.
Well, the reason
what I hear Terry saying is it ain't gonna happen. I don't want to overinterpret, but I kind of think I heard Terry just say, "Nah."
No, I mean, everybody's different. I'm like a homebody when it comes to watching movies. I just like to do that. You know what I mean? And everybody's got their own preference. So I love to watch old movies too. I mean, I like to go through my AMC movies and watch old classics. So we talked about that too the other time. I mean, I'll have marathon days on Sunday. All I'll do is watch old movies.
I don't want this to turn into the Pick on Terry show, but I'll tell you what'll get Terry. No, I'll tell you what'll get Terry out. What'll get Terry out is if everyone she knows is going out to see a certain film and says, "You will not believe it. You've got to come with us to see this movie. You can't see it on streaming. You can't see it anywhere else, and everybody wants to see this." Yeah. The water cooler effect, right? That's what gets people out. I can't tell you how many crap movies I've gone to see because everybody I knew was telling me I had to go see it, so I was guilted into it. I think Avatar was one of those where more people went to see Avatar because everyone was talking about it, not because they actually see.
He froze.
You make a phenomenon.
Well, let me ask you this, because I've been counting and I've been peeking into the theaters where they've been having indie films. Nobody's in those theaters. Like I said, I've gone to the Westfield Mall. I've gone to 2nd Street in Santa Monica. I've gone to the Landmark. I've gone to Limley's North Hollywood. I've gone to Regal's. And I'm always been a counter. And I'm with Chuck. I don't want everybody in the theaters anymore. I like to be in the theaters by myself. But I understand we got to get them back in the theaters. But I don't see it happening.
Chuck, well, again, not to repeat myself, but that was a problem prior to pandemic. Right. Those theaters, which is a shame too, because look, I spent most of the 90s, from 1990 until the middle 2000s, roaming around all of the wonderful little, not just the Limleys, but the theaters, but all of those single theaters that were all over Westwood. That Wade will know much better than I do. Literally walking Westwood from one end to the other, from movie to movie to movie, and just adoring it and loving it. Of course, back then we had a very, very healthy foreign cinema scene. So a whole lot of foreign language films occupied those theaters. So content to be in those theaters. And then, of course, came the first, I guess it would have been the second new wave of independent American cinema, Quentin Tarantino and John Singleton and all of those filmmakers, and they occupied those screens. Well, now all of those movies, the foreign films are on the Criterion Channel. The little gritty Reservoir Dog-y type films are running on Netflix. It's a series on Netflix. It's so what are the films that would occupy those spaces? I can't quite put my finger on it.
I can. Let me weigh in just for a real quick second. So I remember there was a day in 1982, and I went with all my buddies. We were in high school, and we went to Westwood to go theater hopping, just like Tim was saying. It was a Saturday. We were excited. We're going to hit 3 movies this weekend. We're going to Westwood. And we're going to go bang, bang, bang. Here are the movies that we saw: Blade Runner, The Road Warrior, and Megaforce. Okay, 2 out of 3, not bad, right? 2 out of 3, not bad. But let's think about the last time that we had a weekend where 2 out of 3 movies that you could go see, 2 out of 3 new movies, were all-time classics. Blade Runner and Road Warrior, all-time classics. When was the last time we had that kind of?
Well, let me tell you this. Remember, in Westwood, there used to be 16 theaters. Now there's two. So a lot of these places close. When I went over to see Greg Limley at Limley's Theater in June, the look of this horror on his face, he goes, Brian, I don't know how I'm going to make payroll. When I saw the look of his face, and I was like, oh, this is not good. He was still doing things the old way, still putting a print ad in. And by the time that ran in the LA Times, that movie was gone 2 weeks ago. I said, Greg, that's not how you do it. You got to come on our show. We got 8 million views a day and counting. That's not how you do it. So when it goes to Chuck's theory, I don't want to see a lot of people in the theaters because I don't trust, first of all, where a lot of these people have been, for one. But also, it's based on what people do in the dark. They don't do the right things in the dark. And that was my one fear. They just don't. So Tim and Wade, I got to ask you this. So what do film critics, for the audience, what do film critics talk about on your shows? And how do you guys be a film critics these days?
It's funny. Tim will back me up on this. So apart from our DigiGods podcast, which is exclusively about DVDs, Blu-rays, 4K, the home environment, we focus on the stuff that people can get for your home environment, for your home theater. But on KPCC Film Week, a normal film week before the pandemic, the producer would send us a list. These are the 25 movies that are opening in theaters in Los Angeles this week. Let's go through about 9 or 10 of them. Okay, that's fine, fair enough. We can do about 9, 10. 2 critics, sometimes 3 can burn through that in a couple of segments, maybe 3 segments. Now we get a list of not only movies opening in theaters, but everything that is on VOD, that is on PVOD, that's on streaming of any kind, anything that is feature length that is available in the world to a person on their screen at home or in a theater is on our list. And we're looking at 60 movies now every week. Looking at a list of 60 movies, and it's like, okay, I don't know, what are we going to pick? And I tell me I'm wrong here, but in the old days, you had 22, 23 movies opening. About a third to a half of them were worth watching. Now we got 60 movies to go through. I'm lucky to find one that's any good.
And here's the thing too. Very often, the film that's the best film, the film that needs to be talked about, is a film that was never ever going to be theatrically released in any context in the first place. Whoever produced it, Prime or Hulu or wherever it might be, but wherever that film is and whatever that film is, that's the best film this week of these 60 films. And it was never. At least that it very likely never would have gotten a theatrical release ever 5, 6, 8, 10, 50, whatever it is, years ago. And sometimes even if it is a film that would have gotten a theatrical release, even today, right now, more people are going to see that film and wherever it's being released, Prime or Hulu or Netflix, than would have ever seen it. Even if it had gotten the theatrical release that it, might have gotten again 2.5, 3, 4, 5 years ago. Just literally more people can queue it up and press that button and watch it. And, however good or bad it is, than ever could. And frankly, sometimes more people just sort of, sometimes I can see how it's a wonderful thing. I think about a film from last year, Rada Blank's film, 40-Year-Old Version. This beautiful film out for the New York filmmaker Rada Blank out in black and white film. Yeah, and it's just this gorgeous little film, and this film sort of had a little life, because it's the streaming film and it lived in this world and all that kind of stuff. And I think to myself, if that film didn't have that life in that world, if it had to make its way in the big world of theatrical releases for that season, you know what I mean? I'm not sure that film would have made it. I'm not sure it would have had that little life. I'm not sure that many of us would have seen it, would have gotten in our car to drive to some theater someplace to watch this black and white film made by this black girl out of New York that none of us have ever heard of. But it was easy for lots of people, film critics and other people, to queue it up on wherever it was streaming and just sort of fall into it any given night of the week in our house. how's so that I got to tell you, that made little movies like that happen. I can think of 2 or 3 of those.
So Roxy, if you're there, let me ask you this: what would get you to go to the theaters since you're based in Ohio? And then Chuck, what do you look forward to coming out between now and the end of the year of movies that you may know, whether it's Tom Cruise's Top Gun or whether it's James Bond film? Would you go back with a friend, and do you want to see a crowd of people in the theaters? Roxy, you first if you're there.
I am here, and what I have to say about that is I'm going to go by other people's words and what they say. If I hear a good review and say that they had a comfortable time and they felt it was a clean atmosphere and all that, I would definitely go. And I've been wanting to go see a movie just because of you, Brian. The silent movie. What's it called? The horror movie. You got to stay silent.
You want to see A Quiet Place?
Yeah, I want to see that one because of what you have said to me, and those are going to be what's triggering me is to get to go out and see it is because of other feedback from other people.
And then Chuck, would you go with a bunch of people to go see the new James Bond film coming out within the next couple months? And would you go see Top Gun with a bunch of people? And how would you feel walking into that theater with a bunch of people in the theater? Would you freak out?
Well, honestly, I wouldn't go. I'm overly cautious, but just I'm being cautious, being around a lot of people. I'd find a time during the day that I could go in and watch it, but when there's really good, it gives me a little bit of anxiety. So I personally wouldn't go with a lot of people around. But I would find a time during the day definitely to get into the movie theater, because there's always times during the day you can get in there a little bit earlier, like right when it's opening up, because most people go like towards maybe the afternoon or towards the night. I can get right in there early afternoon and watch it. So definitely, if it's eye catching, I just went and saw a new one. I don't know if it was Ryan Reynolds or whatnot, but I had to do like a video game, and he was an AI. That was a new idea, and that was amazing because they talk a lot about it on right now, and seeing a video game where he actually had a conscience and it was crazy. And that got me to come in, and I enjoyed it, and I went at a time that there weren't a lot of people, so I got to go check, support, and come in and be there and not have a lot of people around. So it was amazing, and I really enjoyed it.
Free Guy. Free Guy. He's talking about Free Guy.
Yeah.
Well, wait. Let me tell you this. So I've been to support a couple of my friends. I've gone to the B films and these premieres. They've been actually paying and renting out the theaters. They have been packed. And I'm like, whoa, there's a lot of people here for a bad movie. And I immediately got up and said, hey, you guys can have my seat. I can watch this anytime. But so they have been going out to support that on the indie films, but they have not been able to go out and actually pay for those indie films. What does that say to you guys?
I mean, it says to me that people aren't ready to go back yet. They'll go back for their friends, but if you have to put your money down and take a chance on something that you don't have a personal connection to, that's a jump that people aren't quite ready to get back into. I think I think by next summer, I think the summer of 2022 is going to be huge. The holiday season of 2021, I think, is probably going to be healthy. But summer 2022, I think, is going to be enormous. I think Disney is already betting on that. I think Paramount's betting on that. Everybody is positioning their films next summer in anticipation of something really, really big. I just want to say a quick thing before I back off of this subject. Respect and Free Guy. That's a really interesting tandem. I think both of those movies deserve to be seen in a theater. They're different kinds of films. Free Guy is a total popcorn movie, and it is so much fun. And it's not a sequel. It's not a remake. It's not a comic book movie. It's not based on a video game. It's totally original, and it's so much fun. And it's a big movie, and you get your popcorn, your crowded theater, and people cheer, and it's wonderful. It's like the 80s again. Respect is straight up Oscar stuff, and
absolutely.
And you got to see this in a theater because Aretha is such a larger than life figure. She's such an epic, legendary figure that when Jennifer Hudson fills up that character, you want to be in the theater so that the magnitude of that greatness washes over you. And also because in those song building scenes, which are incredible, where you're down in Muscle Shoals with the musicians and they're putting it together, On a 50-foot screen, you feel like you're in that room with them. So I think on both the intimate and the epic level, Respect is a movie you got to see in a theater. It's just the sound, the magnitude of the story, the scope, the years, it just washes over you and it pulls you in. And that's a big screen movie.
So the last time we were talking early in the year, you said people would come out and see Top Gun, the James Bond film, and a couple other things. Do you still feel that way?
I do. I think Tom Cruise is the last movie star. Tim will vouch for that, and I think he will bring them out. And I do feel like those big movies, if people have no other choice but to go out to a theater and see them, and if they feel safe, then I think we're good to go.
So what happens? What happens if people get scared coming up to these bigger releases because here's the thing. I always say this. We got 100 days of work days to get things done. That's it. We only got 4 months left of the year. And I don't count the week of Thanksgiving, and I don't count the last 3 weeks of December. Really 100 days left. So I want to kick ass between now and the end of the year. So what happens if the various different places start to get really bad, which is what the case may be? Because I'm talking to my friends worldwide daily. 15 countries I'm talking to on what's going on, how everything's going. And then I've had a bunch of people call me, Brian, what do you think the safest way is to show our film? Well, there's not a safe way to show your film. Show it outside. Go to the Westfield Mall. Show it in that open area there. You can have 250 people there sitting in lounge chairs outside. That is safe because it's outside. And I saw Tuna and Hooch there, how Disney did it. And that's the one place. Besides drive-ins. Drive-ins, I don't think drive-ins are going to go away. They shouldn't go away. Utilize them again. Take a chance of those extra revenue sources to do stuff. And no, a lot of people are just not going to go back to the theaters, even though a lot of movies need to be seen on the big screen. I agree with that.
I do love the notion of drive-ins becoming a sort of ordinary thing as they were in my youth. Again, particularly, because going to the drive-in today, I went to 2 or 3, last year during the run. There were some big movies that had these sort of drive-in experiences. For one thing, you could put them all kinds of places now. I live in Pasadena. They do this thing out at the Rose Bowl. And of course, they tune it or whatever the hell they do, and it just comes through over your car stereo. I got a nice car stereo. And I'm in my car and I got all my crap and I got my friends and my little goddaughter and we just, we're driving and nobody infected me. And it was fabulous. And I just remember that again, maybe I'm being nostalgic, but I even remember that as a kid. I loved doing that. And this is several thousand people going out to see a movie. And now you can do that in lots of different, obviously the cost of land and property. And what was that drive-in, Wade, over there off the 405? Years ago, we're talking almost 30 years ago now. As you drove down. Oh, good Lord, what was
it in Culver City?
Yes.
Yeah, that was the one off of off of Sepulveda over kind of next to Fox Hills. Yeah, that was That was the last West Side Drive-In. That thing. I mean, you remember because we made a documentary on history of exploitation films and called Schlock: The Secret History of American Movies. And we actually video recorded the destruction of that thing when they took it down.
Yeah, when they were actually knocking down the big screen. Mm-hmm. Me and Bridget went to 2 or 3 movies there in the early 90s before they got to it. But I don't know. I don't even know what's there anymore. But I'm sure it's a very tall building worth billions and billions of dollars. So this is sort of like a competing thing. But they do have different ways of doing that now. So I would love to see some of these big companies lean into that. As a way of doing, big theatrical exhibition, and I don't know, but the small film, the little film, the Tangerine, the whatever, I don't think people are going to be paying. And we haven't mentioned it in this, but movies at the theater cost a lot. Exactly. Now these things that they do now where you could buy this package or whatever, what is it, $30 usually, about $30, right? Which is a lot. But if you got 4 or 5 people at your house, your vaccinated house, or whatever, particularly kids, for Disney movies and that kind of stuff, $30 for 4 or 5 kids and a couple of adults, suddenly that's not so much.
Right. Exactly.
So, it can be complicated like that.
Well, let me ask you two this. If you guys weren't movie critics and you didn't get the screening links for free, like we do, would you be paying $14 every week to go see a movie?
I have to be brutally honest with you. Movies cost too much. So it's not so much that I would be about the 14 bucks, but I feel like a statement needs to be made to the industry that says movies cost too much. They actually literally cost too much. So I think I wouldn't do it, but I would do it with that as my statement. It's not about the money in and of itself. There's no reason for these movies to cost this much, and because they cost so much, they aren't what they were when I was a child. When I was a kid, I could go cut somebody's yard, get $5, and go see 2 movies for $2.50 each.
Yep.
Or take me and my girlfriend to see a movie. The equivalent of that does not exist for young children, people today. Some kind of way you got to rob a bank or something to get $50 to take your girl to see a movie, and then we get mad at them because they robbed that bank. You know, look, it costs $100 to take my homie out. So we have to get back to an equivalent of what it was, and then I'm perfectly okay to buy a movie ticket.
Movie Pass. Even though it went belly up because people loved movies too much. Movie Pass proved that people wanted to go to the theater more than Movie Pass even thought they did.
Yep.
That's why Movie Pass went out of business. People want to go. But here's what we need, and we need new companies. We don't need the studios who answer to quarterly earnings and shareholders and you know they chip away at everything. We need fewer movies in theaters. Most movies should go streaming. They really should. Like Tim said, most movies belong on streaming. We need fewer movies that sit in theaters for a longer period of time, that are made for less, that cost less at the box office, and that
at the ticket office.
Ticket office. They need to have cheaper budgets, and they need to have lower ticket prices so more people can go see them in bigger theaters for a longer period of time. And the split needs to be more favorable to exhibitors, and more of those profits need to go back to actors and directors and writers and the artists who make them. If you change all of those economics, fine. They don't need to spread that wealth around more. If you let the artistic effort be more rewarding to everybody, and you bring the economies of scale back down so that more people can go see them and can afford it, and theaters have more of an investment to keep them around, everything fixes itself. Right now, it's just raw greed of multinationals who own the studios that have screwed up the equation that all the original moguls invented in the 30s and 40s. We need to get back to that.
Let me ask you guys this. We got about 7 minutes left. So film festivals. I've been saying film festivals are dead since 2016 when I was involved with the Hollywood Film Festival. Looking at the stuff behind the scenes, not pretty. I think 2 film festivals made money last year: LA Greek Film Festival and Sundance. That was it. And the other thing is, what is it to be a film critic these days? I want to know, because people are asking me. I'm like, you know what? We got to ask Tim. We got to ask Wade. What do you guys say?
It sucks right now because most of the movies are crappy, and it's a burden. Like I said, we honestly sit there and when I'm on radio, I dread it because I'm grinding through just 2 and 3 terrible movies every night. I'm sitting there doing a double and a triple feature of garbage, and I hate it, and it's dreadful. And I want good movies back, but it's so hard. And the only other thing I would say for film festivals is there's too many of them. At a certain point, you can have too much of a good thing, and we really need to. They need to thin the herd a little bit. You know, Sundance, Cannes, Toronto. Maybe 2 or 3 others, and call it quits.
Tim?
Well, there's a lot of everything, a lot of movies, a lot of film festivals, and so just by comparison, you're going to have that many more movies, which are not movies that we might call good, among the ones that are gems. But the gems are still there every now and again. What's terrible or tough is that it's really hard for the gems to make their way to the top, for folks to come to know about the gems and thus engage them. So I see this sort of complicated sort of mishmash of things that are going on. To be a film critic today is really to be a culture critic. If you're talking about movies today, if you're talking about, you're really talking about the culture writ large, because the culture writ large is what's in the movies today. It doesn't make any difference if it's a superhero movie. Within that superhero movie, they will be speaking to the culture. Captain Marvel speaks to the culture, and that's I think one of the more interesting things about being a film critic today. Talking about movies is talking about the culture that we live in, and and that's an interesting conversation.
Let me ask you guys this, Chuck. Your question is going to be, what's it like to talk to Tim and Wade? And give your social media links after this. But let me ask this question first: are junkets dead? Tim and Wade, are in-person celebrity interviews dead?
I mean, by dead, I mean relatively compared to what we used to do back in the day. What a junket was back in the day, every Saturday, every Sunday at the Four Seasons or some other hotel, radio, rooms, suites, all of that kind of stuff. That is, relatively speaking, gone. It absolutely is, and good riddance, except for the food. Except for the food.
And the swag. Don't forget the swag.
You still get the swag. They just mail it to you.
I think it'll come back, but I don't think it'll come back for every single movie. I think it'll come back for event films.
It would have to be, and even then, until this thing is under control. Because the fact of the matter is, I've done several interviews with notable this, that, and the other thing, more or less like this, and talked to them about whatever it was that they were doing, and it was fine, and it went on air, Spectrum here, there, whatever it happened to be, and nobody had to leave their house. So as the technology gets better, I think that will be more and more and more the thing. I know that there have been a red carpet or two. I used to cover a lot of red carpets here and there. But to be honest with you, I haven't gone on a red carpet or been to a junket in more than 2 years, since well before the pandemic. Because anybody I wanted to talk to, I could just dial up.
Chuck, go ahead.
Wade and I do a lot of interviews with biggies for the podcast. Both podcasts. We just did one with Sherman from over at Stranger Things and Into the Badlands. Who did we do? Did we do John Badham? I think we did John Badham.
John Badham, yeah, we've done a lot. We did Jaco van Dormael, the great Belgian director.
And not for nothing, Jaco was in Sweden or wherever the hell he was. Where was Jaco?
He was in Belgium, I think. I think he was in Belgium. Yeah,
he wasn't in L.A. So that interview would not have happened in that way. But for this technology, but because of it, we had a chat with Jaco. So it's interesting.
So Chuck, what's it like to be on with two film critics? Rotten Tomatoes certified. I don't know what the hell that means, but it means something in that world.
It's an honor and a pleasure to be around two men that know so much knowledge. It's I sit here and I watch movies, and I really don't even the in-depthness of what I could really know about these things, and to hear all this knowledge and the passion about it, it's amazing. I just sit here in awe, and it's like sucking it all up and just taking all the information in, and to see it from a different perspective is just so eye-opening, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you guys for sharing so much.
Chuck, tell them what you do real quick and give your social media links.
So Cyberchuck 2.0, what I do is on Instagram daily at Cyberchuck 2.0. I do daily motivation to help people get their day started right. It's 20-second motivation videos, and it's my way of giving back to everybody to share a piece of my day, showing people how I get my day started to help other people get their day started right.
So nonstop. So what's it going to take you to get back to the theaters, Terri, and give your social media links?
Basically just hang out with good friends. My social media links is TerriMarieOfficial.com, and then nonstop Terri Marie on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
And tell them what you do really quickly.
I'm a fitness competitor, and I do red carpet interviews with Brian. I've been working with Brian for 6 years now, and I do some acting. I'm going to be in a music video with a band called Wicked Kid. I will let you guys know when that is released, when their album is released, and I do lots of things.
So, all right. So, Wade, what's one film you look forward to seeing between now and the end of the year, and social media links?
Oh boy, between now and the end of the year, gosh, that's a good question. You know what, James Bond? I haven't had a James Bond film in a long time, man. I'm looking forward to that. I want to get some Daniel Craig on. It's probably his last appearance as Bond, so that's important. Social media links, boy, go to the websites, digigods.com, cinegods.com, scpr.org, and at cinegods and at digigods on Twitter.
And Tim, favorite film you look forward to seeing?
I got to remember the last movie star, Top Gun, baby. Tom Cruise. I think Iceman is even in that movie. So that's my movie, Top Gun. And in all my social media is everything that Wade said.
Okay, I got to thank you guys for coming on because we don't get a lot of critics like yourself. I always looked up to you guys. I'm always glad that you guys are my friends, and I feel good that I can call you guys and just what's going on. What are you hearing?
Always.
Odd things. So with that, I'm Brian Sebastian. This is Movie Reviews and More. And as I always say, if you see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours because the world needs it. We will see you next week.